And a very happy Wednesday to you at 12:07 in the West. It's the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wang's in New Mexico.
John, Governor Gavin Newsom is in Davos, where he just got banned from a speaking event by the U.S. State Department, which also leads to the question, why is Gavin Newsom in Davos to begin with?
He needed to hit a number of miles for executive platinum.
Well, and it's funny, if you see all these interviews that he's doing out there, he definitely had a cold on Friday at his press conference with Daniel Lurie, and he is sick as a dog, but he's still going there, probably giving COVID to everybody.
I love the fact that he shut everything down in the state of California all through COVID because he wanted to slow the spread. Yet he got on an airplane, sick as a dog, to go to a conference that he doesn't even belong at.
And he's not getting the warmest reception there either.
Well, before we get to that, the last time I got sick because of the pig I sat next to on the airplane coming back from Brazil, who I don't know if she had COVID or if she had just a regular flu or if she had, I don't know, some tropical disease that I'm not familiar with. But she spent the entire flight, the entire 11 hours, blowing her nose into her bare hands and touching everything. And of course, I got sick after I got home.
You were sick for a while on that one.
I was. Well, Gavin Newsom, of course, is pretending to be a head of state at this conference. And boy, did he get name-checked by the Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent.
Let's go ahead and listen to what Scott Bessent had to say about Gavin Newsom showing up in Davos.
I think it's very, very ironic that, Governor Newsom, who strikes me as Patrick Bateman meets Sparkle Beach Ken.
Accurate.
What do you think he would have said about Ferrer if she showed up?
By the way, if you wonder why Marshawn Lynch, Gavin Newsom's former podcasting partner, calls Gavin Newsom Batman, it's because Gavin Newsom has a striking resemblance to Christian Bale in American Psycho, Patrick Bateman.
Maybe the only Californian who knows less about economics than Kamala Harris.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, what does the average voter have to say about that, Randy?
Well, let's go ahead and check in with the average California voter. And the average California voter says,
no, I don't know enough to give you any good information, but good luck finding someone who does.
She knows less.
He's here this week with his billionaire sugar daddy, Alex Soros. And
isn't that more like the sugar cousin?
Well, he's a sugar baby, isn't he? He's the son.
The Davos is a perfect place for a man who, when everyone else was on lockdown, when he was having people arrested for going to church, he was having $1,000 a night meals at the French Laundry.
And I'm going to have to fact check that. It was way more than $1,000.
Wasn't it something like the liquor bill alone was over $20,000, wasn't it?
They were going for it. It was Gavin Newsom's lobbyist friend's birthday, and so they bought, I believe, as much as $12,000 in just wine on top of course, the meal at the French Laundry. That was a very, very, very expensive bill. And that's also probably where Gavin Newsom negotiated bailing out PG&E.
$20,000 in wine? Won't $20,000 get you the whole, I don't know, Bartles and James bottling factory itself?
Well, it depends on the wine. $20,000 sounds like a lot, but for the French Laundry, $20,000 could be maybe 10 bottles.
Oh, my.
He was having $1,000 a night meals at the French Laundry, and I'm sure the California people won't forget that.
No, they did.
And he got elected after that.
He beat a recall, and then he won another election by an even wider margin.
That being said, I do think this is going to be an issue for him in a Democratic primary.
He's a little too highfalutin.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's what the book is supposed to be about. Young Man in a Hurry coming to bookstores next month, where Gavin Newsom wants you to know how poor he was growing up.
And no one believes that.
Will you be getting a copy?
No.
And I can tell my message to Governor Newsom is the Trump administration is coming to California. We are going to crack down on waste, fraud, and abuse. And I was told...
Maybe you start at EDD. We got about $30 billion missing.
And then when you're done with that, move on to the Oakland Coliseum.
And I was told...
Well, yeah, that deal's got a lot of issues, doesn't it, Shangy?
That's right. I like that. That was amazing.
Hey, Sheng getting a name check early today.
And I was told he was asked to give a speech on his signature policies, but he's not speaking. Because what have his economic policies brought? Outward migration from California, a gigantic budget deficit, the largest homeless population in America, and the poor folks in the Palisades who had their homes burned down. He is here hobnobbing with the global elite while his California citizens are still homeless. Shame on him. He is too smug, too self-absorbed, and too economically illiterate to know anything.
He must listen to this show. Oh my God, I love him.
I don't think Gavin Newsom was expecting that kind of welcome when he flew all the way to Switzerland.
No, but it's exactly what he deserves. And while he's in Switzerland dealing with the global elite in Davos, apparently there is anger brewing towards Gavin Newsom among his fellow Democrats back in Sacramento.
That's because Gavin Newsom didn't show up to his budget presentation, where he had a lackey say that this budget presentation does not matter. This budget does not matter. The real budget is in May, which means the legislature has nothing to do for the next 5 months.
And they have a big problem on the horizon with the storm clouds of brewing.
For more, here's KCRA 3 and Ashley Zavala.
Tonight, several California lawmakers signaled today they're concerned Governor Gavin Newsom wants to wait until May to sort out major state money problems. Thanks for joining us at 5. I'm Lisa Gonzalez.
I'm Galston Dart. State lawmakers holding the first hearing on the governor's proposed state spending plan. KCRA 3 political director Ashley Zavala was there. She joins us now and explains the concerns that a lot of folks have.
Yeah, Galston, the two big issues the governor is not ready to address right now. First, big funding gaps left by the Trump administration's federal budget cuts.
Shouldn't we be figuring those out now?
You would think maybe that could be more important than going to Davos.
The other problem, the state's overall issue that it's spending more money than it's bringing in.
Also something huge, but also something we have not addressed in many, many years.
And something that Gavin Newsom doesn't seem to care about.
The governor said he's waiting until...
We brought in more money last year, but somehow we're still spending in more money than we're taking in. Now, some of that is all these stupid laws that we have on the books that say if we bring in more money, a certain portion of that has to go to the schools. With enrollment in free fall, we got to kill that.
No, we should be closing schools and combining schools and using that money for other things. But of course, we can't piss off Cecily Myart Cruz.
Can't do that.
The governor said he's waiting until May because that's when the state's money situation is clear ahead of the new budget year that starts in July. But that did not seem to sit well with lawmakers in the Assembly Budget Committee, which...
Are we finally going to see in the 8th year of Gavin Newsom's term the legislature stand up to him?
Well, they're doing it because he's not here. The moment he gets back to town, they're going to start acting like a chihuahua that lives in his purse.
Held the first hearing on this today at the state capitol. The governor's spending plan is banking on the stock market staying hot, which has been helping the state bring in more cash than expected.
Yeah, but that's not a sure thing.
No, and to Gavin's credit, I think it's reasonable to assume with AI exploding and California being the home to AI, that we will do okay. However, if you and the SEIU chase all of the AI leaders out of the state and you lose $10 trillion in wealth, guess what? Even if the stock market does well, the people who benefit the most from that, who would be paying the most, are residents of other states.
But still, the state has committed to spending programs that are expected to leave the state with a shortfall somewhere between $3 billion and $18 billion next year. And then even...
What is that, a rounding error?
and then even bigger deficits between $22 billion to $35 billion in the years to come.
Maybe that's why nobody wants to run for governor.
Would you?
The state's top
You know you're going into a job where you can't promise anything because the state is broke because it's overcommitted itself to a bunch of nonsense.
And here's something else. And the guy who screwed it all up is going to be running for president saying, don't blame me, it's the next guy's fault.
The state's top independent fiscal advisor, legislative analyst Gabe Pettick, said he could not in good conscience advise lawmakers to adopt the budget under the governor's assumptions. Lawmakers told Newsom's administration they need more before May.
The main thing I would say about waiting until May is that, the risk that we're talking about goes 17 more months essentially until the end of the upcoming budget year. We may not know in May whether or not the budget problem, the revenue problem, or the revenue risk that I'm highlighting has occurred. A lot of times there's a delay even when the revenues start to turn down. We don't really find out about it until after the fact. And so
we don't know exactly how many of those billionaires moved out, but they're moving.
Oh, yeah. And the more belligerent that Newsom and his cast of glee are on social media, the more will move out.
And so even in May, if things are looking good, that doesn't mean we're in the all clear. And also, I really don't think that it's ideal to wait until May if we have to make big, difficult decisions for the public to have a part in this process and for the legislature to be able to have full input and flexibility about considering its options. And not wanting to jam the legislature at the last minute, I think, is very important.
Gavin prides himself on jamming the legislature. I think he came up with that term.
Oh, this is exactly what he's going to do. If in May we find out that the situation is worse than we think it is, he's going to come in with a bunch of cuts or a bunch of tax increases that benefit him and screw over constituencies that matter to other people. And he's going to say, we have no time. This is the deal. This is it. Approve it or else.
If the governor is intending to propose significant solutions to balance out your shortfalls, I think it's really important that we have the opportunity to have conversations about those prior to the May revise so that they can get the public vetting that they deserve, so that we can hear from impacted stakeholders. And so,
no, let's do all this at the last minute where the legislature has 3 weeks to get a budget done.
It's not even that he's not there participating in the process. He's not even thinking about this. This is not at the top of his list of issues of importance. He's running for president, and his entire program right now is trying to become a story on CNN and Fox and MS Now, or whatever the hell they're calling themselves now, because he sees himself as a national figure and not a state figure.
that members of the committee have the opportunity and members of the legislature have the opportunity to weigh in on that. So I'm confident that that's the direction in which we're going to head, and I just appreciate your partnership here. I don't know if you wanted to respond.
Yes, just wanted to say the sooner the better.
Yeah, good luck with that.
That was the voice. That was the voice of Erica Lee, the head of budgets for Governor Newsom's Department of Finance. Now, also brought up in this hearing was a wildfire fund that the governor said he wanted to establish in his State of the State address earlier this month. His Department of Finance confirmed in today's hearing it's not in his budget, but is something that could be included in May. Golson, back to you.
All right, Ashley, thank you.
Now, Johnny, because I heard it so many times, I'm only going to do it once, but every 3 seconds when listening to this story on my hike this morning, all I could think of was this.
It's not in his budget, but is something that could be included in May. Golson, back to you.
All right, Ashley.
It is the month, the special month out of the year.
May! Which is 2 months after March.
Thanks, Cecily. 800-222-5222 is a telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, coming up in February, we're going back on the road.
How exciting is this? We're going back to Gladstone's in Long Beach. Friday, February 6th from noon to 3. We're heading to Gladstone's in Long Beach for our next live broadcast, and you're invited. We need you to come enjoy the great food, good vibes, and have a fun afternoon by the water. We'll once again be joined by our friend Susan Shelley from the Howard Jarvis Taxpayer Association. She'll tell you more about your taxpayer rights and protecting Prop 13 because, as we've been telling you, the courts have made it easier to raise your taxes. We need you to come by and sign the petition to save Prop 13. If you were in Orange County and you couldn't make Sherman Oaks, you can definitely make it to Long Beach. Plus, it's gorgeous out there at Gladstone's. Look, the deadline is coming fast. Susan needs these signatures by February 17th. So if you haven't done so yet, go to the website, saveprop13.com. All the instructions are there on how to fill out the petition and send it in. Get your friends to do it. Get your family to do it. Get your neighbors to do it, especially if you live in a single-family neighborhood, because the homeowners are getting pitted against the renters on this one. Come hang out with us, grab a bite, and be part of the broadcast. The John Phillips Show, live at Gladstone's in Long Beach, Friday the 6th from noon to 3.
And sometimes you go to a show, even if it's at a really nice venue. I was just at the Sphere in Las Vegas, for example. That is a beautiful venue. But the food at arenas, the food at theaters, it's entirely mediocre. I am a big seafood guy. I love seafood. It's probably my top 2 or 3 in terms of cuisine. And let me tell you, the food over at Gladstone's will blow you away. Whether you're an oyster person, you like the shrimp cocktail, you like a nice piece of fish. I think one time we were there, it was close to Thanksgiving, they even had a Thanksgiving spread. Everything over there is a home run. So you'll not only enjoy the show, but you will fill your tummy with amazing food as well. In the meantime, Randy, what do you say we make a couple of listeners very happy?
Well, let's do that right now. 790 KABC welcomes John Mellencamp to the Hollywood Bowl on August 10th. Tickets are on sale Friday at Ticketmaster.com, but right now, caller number 9 at 1-888-790-5222 gets a pair of tickets to the show. Tickets furnished by Live Nation. Good luck dialing.
Coming up after the news at 1, it's the Fix California Hour, and our pal Gloria Romero, the former Senate Majority Leader in the California legislature, she's now a candidate for lieutenant governor, and she'll be joining us. But next, as if we're not spending enough money on the bums already, the County of Los Angeles wants to spend even more on a brand new department. We are spending a record amount of money at virtually every level on homelessness, despite the fact that the number of people living on the streets continues to grow. And Randy, in the County of Los Angeles, they're now even creating an entirely new department.
Let's take the same people that have screwed this up for years and years and years and put them under a shiny new roof. Forget LASA. Now we have La Casa.
La Casa? I recommend the chimichanga.
For more on the LA County Department of Housing and Homelessness and how this is going to be totally different from LASA, here is Fox 11 in Los Angeles.
At the local store closing its doors over the homeless crisis in LA County. This time, Block Party in West Hollywood shutting down that location come February 23rd.
Because of the homeless?
Well, the homeless have kind of taken over that neighborhood, but I would assume they have other problems than that.
While some businesses say homeless issues are too much to handle, LA County is trying to come up with solutions. Today, it announced the new Department of Homeless Services and Housing. The goal is to allow the Board of Supervisors to have better oversight of the money being spent on homelessness. Fox 11's Nick Garcia is live in downtown LA to explain how this will work. Nick?
And how this is any different from the system we had for the past 30 years with LASA.
No, they just keep rearranging the chairs on the deck of the Titanic.
Right, Christina. Well, that new department is called the LA County Department of Homeless Services and Housing. It comes after hundreds of millions of dollars were mismanaged by LASA, another group. Now, this single department, though.
And if you don't know, especially, if you're in the Bay Area, so there was a massive problem with how the county and the city were getting along when it comes to running homelessness. So they created a joint authority called the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority, and they've been terrible at everything. And they've been getting a lot of money from county taxes like Measure H and city taxes like Measure Triple H, and the problem has only gotten worse. In 2024, LA County voters for some reason passed Measure A, which was a doubling of the homeless tax. And at that point, the county saw an opportunity for a power grab to make sure that they get all of that money and the city doesn't get any of it, because they say it's the city mismanaging it. And the city says it's the county mismanaging it. And why do you think we are where we are?
You know what I think the subtext is here? This is Lindsay Horvath setting herself up to run for mayor.
Now, this single department, though, will oversee all of the county's homeless services, and the supervisors say one of its main goals is transparency.
We're going to show you how we're wasting all this money.
There's a novel idea.
Homelessness is a top issue in Los Angeles County, and now the LA County Board of Supervisors says the answer is a new Department of Homeless Services and Housing.
By the way, there's nothing more LA County and more California than the answer to our awful bureaucracy is another bureaucracy.
Well, this is what happens in the state of California. We talk about waste, fraud, and abuse. Yes, that's true, but there's also overlap. For example, when you go to the ballot in 2026, you're going to vote for the state superintendent of public instruction. The state superintendent of public instruction works for the education board in California. That board is appointed by the governor. So you have a duly elected official who technically works for an appointed body that doesn't have the power to fire the person. In addition to that, the governor gets to appoint a secretary of education. So you have two departments that exist to essentially do the same thing. But you have the Department of Education because the governor wants to say that they have a role in education, and they have a role in appointing people that have a say over what goes on in public education. And then you have an independently elected office for a termed out politician to run for. It's nuts.
Headed by Sarah Mahan.
We are making the county's response clearer, faster, and more accountable to the people.
Just because you say it's going to be accountable doesn't mean you have any track record. We don't know where billions of dollars in homeless money was spent, and the same people that were running all these programs are still running all these programs.
And nothing has changed.
The only thing that has changed is Karen Bass's appointed leader of LAHSA, Dr. Valicia Adams-Kellum, who was fudging the numbers to make sure Karen Bass didn't look bad.
And to the communities that we serve.
Supervisors Catherine Barger and Lindsay Horvath worked to get the new department started after failures.
Oh, and by the way, I listened to the first budget hearing of this new department at the Board of Supervisors meeting last week. This department just opened. It's brand new. And John, it's facing a massive deficit because they've already planned for more money to be spent than they have. And this is after they doubled the homeless tax. They still don't have enough money.
Well, at least they're coming into it knowing the county culture.
After failures within the LA Homeless Services Authority.
We aren't just standing up a new department to take all the problems that existed at LAHSA and bring them over here. We are trying to untangle the mess and make sure that we're starting out with a clean slate and doing the things that work.
And when this doesn't work, remember that Lindsay Horvath owns this.
No, when it doesn't work, what she's going to say is, well, they need more money. They're not fully funded. They need more dough.
Money is not the problem here.
Depending on where that request is for, it'll go to the appropriate staff person here.
The new department is asking the Board of Supervisors to approve a hefty budget, more than $820 million, much of it from Measure A, an increase to sales tax passed by voters in 2024.
And that one's on us. That one's on Los Angeles County. You knew better. You saw all the damage that was done with Measure H and how spending more money on the problem made the problem worse, and you decided to double down.
They always do. Whenever they're given the opportunity to tax themselves to spend more money on the bums, they do it. And when more people end up living on the streets, there's never any, to borrow a word from Gavin Newsom, accountability.
But now the public will be able to track where the money is going through online dashboards.
Accountability now.
Even from Barger, that word is hollow.
Accountability now.
ends with the board. We are bringing in the money as it relates to the measure, and it's important for us to...
By the way, there isn't any accountability. Barger's termed out.
Well, and then Lindsay Horvath is probably running for mayor.
Recognize that the buck is going to stop with us.
Every dollar spent on housing, care, and other services will be overseen by the Board of Supervisors, and the department vows to keep the public informed.
How about the money that goes towards the Department of Public Health, where Barbara Ferrer takes your tax dollars, some of those tax dollars coming from Measure A, but also state and federal programs, and gives them to a nonprofit called Homeless Healthcare Los Angeles that passes out meth pipes in Skid Row and Santa Monica?
Yeah. No, what we need is we need a Doge of California. We need a Doge of LA County. We need a Doge of LA City. Because the amount of money that is laundered to these phony baloney organizations that make all of these politically connected people and their families rich is disgusting.
I mean, you look at Karen Bass's Inside Safe. Now, it's a city program. This is a county thing we're talking about, but where we're spending $800 million a year to house about 4,000 people in motel rooms. How much money are the nonprofits and the organizations that we contract out to run those hotels getting?
A lot.
So you can see how many people are moving off the streets, how many people with serious mental illness and substance use are going into housing, and we'll continue to roll out that kind of information.
Now, today also marks the beginning of the homeless count done annually here in LA. That is still facilitated by LAHSA. The supervisors.
So the crooked organization that has been fudging the numbers for the last 2 years is still going to be making the count. So what exactly does this new department do if they're not doing the count?
And then if you don't believe in their cooked books, they call you a conspiracy theorist.
Wanted to be clear, LAHSA still exists, though its scope of responsibility has dramatically been reduced. Most notably, this new department will be controlling the purse strings going forward. For now, live in downtown Los Angeles, I'm Nick Garcia, Fox 11 News.
Nick, they talk about how they're going to sense or get a feel for the public's trust on this issue. I mean, it's a huge problem everywhere.
You know, they're really leaning into that. They've done a lot of this publicly. They've held public town halls in which they were...
That doesn't mean anything.
You know, it's funny to go back to the stats here for a second because they're doing the count, as they said. And we know that LAHSA got in trouble for cooking the books to make the mayor look good, correct?
Yes.
Okay, we also know that the fire department is under fire for taking the report on the Palisades fire and watering it down so the mayor doesn't look quite as bad, correct?
Yes.
And then their position, whenever they put these numbers out or these reports out that we know are not legitimate and you question them, then they say you're spreading misinformation. That's what Bass always says. You don't know what you're talking about. You're not familiar with the facts. You're spreading misinformation. So you use our bogus numbers or you're a conspiracy theorist.
Public town halls in which they were constructing the budget that will go before the Board of Supervisors in a few weeks. So that is obviously also a very public setting. And then having those online dashboards where people can go and track the money themselves. They know it's going to be a while to build that trust back. But
I can't wait to see how detail-oriented, where it's going to say, oh, this money is going to this nonprofit. What does the nonprofit spend the money on? How much is a water bottle?
Well, it's like what Elon said when he was looking at all the waste, fraud, and abuse at the federal level. They never put a line item saying, okay, this money's going to fraud. They say this money's going to motherhood and apple pie. When you look at what motherhood and apple pie is, that's when you find out it's laundering money.
But everything is supposed to be done in the open.
All right, we'll be watching. All right, thanks so much.
So there you go. LA County opening a brand new Department of Homelessness. Is anything going to change? Not likely.
All right. As we told you before, they are currently conducting the count of the number of homeless people living on the streets. That number has been called into question on any number of occasions in the past for legitimate reasons. And Randy, this year will be no different.
Well, and what's funny is Fox 11 sent Matthew Seedorf to the ground zero of homelessness, Skid Row, where the residents of Skid Row have a very different opinion on if this thing is going down or not. For more, here's Fox 11 in Los Angeles.
Happening tonight, the annual homeless count is underway across Los Angeles as LAHSA faces major budget cuts and questions about whether the numbers match reality. Fox 11's Matthew.
You've had other organizations like the Rand Corporation do their own studies in specific areas, and areas where Karen Bass said we saw this reduction, they saw a 30% increase over the last 2 years.
Well, part of the reason is because she gives them a room at a motel, and that's where they store their stuff. But they hang out day and night in the encampments because that's where the drugs are and that's where the fun is.
Fox 11's Matthew Seedorf live near Skid Row tonight with more on what you saw there, Matthew.
Well, Christine. Boy, this guy is, I got to say, Matthew Seedorf, he is the hazard pay reporter for Fox 11. 2 weeks ago, they sent him to that tunnel where he was literally spelunking for stolen cars. Last week, they sent him to El Segundo where there's a mosquito outbreak. And now they're sending him to Skid Row.
He never gets an easy assignment.
Well, Christine, we just got back from Skid Row, and I can't even guess how many homeless people we counted just ourselves tonight. But Michael
could have used those numbers.
But Michael,
there's also just the simplest things because the LAHSA guidelines for safety for the volunteers are you don't directly engage. You kind of count from afar. So you just guess that it's one person in a tent and 2 people in an RV when it might be 5 people in a tent and 10 people in an RV.
There's a good chance that's true.
But Mike will show you some of the things that they're counting. RVs like this, a common sight across LA is tonight. The count is on. The massive annual count underway across LA. Volunteers with LAHSA hitting the streets, counting everyone they see, tents and RVs.
When proven solutions lose funding, homelessness doesn't stay flat. It may rise.
That warning from LAHSA's interim CEO as the
interim because the CEO that Karen Bass appointed, Dr. Felicia Adams-Kellum, with a salary of $430,000, had to resign in shame. Remember, Johnny, she was writing checks to her husband's nonprofit from LAHSA?
Oh, yes. And I'm sure from her point of view, what's the problem? That's what you're supposed to do in these positions.
She was apparently also sexually harassing one of her male employees at an event in D.C., allegedly.
Oh, so she's fun, huh?
As the agency faces $300 million in budget cuts after an audit revealed a lack.
And you know where she came from, Johnny? A crooked homeless nonprofit. She was the head of one of the ones in Venice that Mike Bonin was propping up for years and years and years.
Well, who's in charge of investigating all of this? Rob Bonta. And weren't he and his wife doing something similar in the Bay Area?
Rob Bonta, for many years, when people weren't paying attention to him, would set up nonprofits that then his wife would run, and then he would have his donors send money to those nonprofits.
After an audit revealed a lack of transparency in their spending.
After last year's audit, how do you respond to people that maybe feel like those budget cuts are justified?
Right. Well, we have an interim internal audit committee now at LAHSA. We are really trying to...
We hired more people to find out how we wasted the money.
It's just unbelievable how these people have one speed and one speed only. And if you challenge them, they don't know how to respond to you.
Be good stewards of people's money.
Here on Skid Row, this is just one of the encampments that we're seeing on a block that is full. Excuse me, guys. Can we talk to you for 30 seconds? One man speaking with us from inside a tent to hide his identity. How many people are in this tent?
About five of us in this one area.
They say homelessness is down.
Homeless is up.
LAHSA reports it.
Yeah, the people that are actually homeless on Skid Row, they haven't seen any improvement. By the way, if your whole platform when you ran for mayor, as Karen Bass did, is that she wanted to solve homelessness, and wouldn't you want to, I don't know, work on the place where it's most visible, where people would see, oh my goodness, you actually did something? Skid Row looks as scary as it does today as it did when Eric Garcetti was in charge, as it did when Antonio Villaraigosa was in charge.
So you just heard from this gentleman that there are 5 people living in that tent. How much do you want to bet when they do the count, they put one person in that tent?
LAHSA reports a decrease in homelessness the last 2 years in a row.
And does that account for all the overdose deaths?
And none of the homeless people believe it. And they live there.
And you also notice, based on the conditions of a place like Skid Row, where is all of that money going?
Good question.
But every person we meet on Skid Row says that doesn't match their reality.
I feel like it's more homeless people than it was before.
You feel like the city's giving you enough resources for help?
No. People that
Here's what I want to know. All the money that is being raised at the local level with Measure A, at the state level, and everywhere else, how much of all of this money goes to that guy's pocket? None.
no.
Well, you would think that with all the money that we were spending on homelessness, people living on the streets would be able to see it. And it's hilarious that not one of them does.
People that are not using the funds the way it's supposed to be used to get them out. We need good people with good consciousness.
We are doing more here to hold the system accountable.
No, you're not.
They just say it over and over and over again, and they expect the LA Times and public radio and everyone else in the mainstream media to just print it, and the public is supposed to go along with it.
That's Nithya Raman, and she got reelected outright in a primary.
But we can't do it if you pull your dollars away.
City Council member Nithya Raman and LAHSA pushing for more funds amidst the cuts.
No, it ain't down.
While LA's homeless are counted to see where in the city needs the most help. How do you think we get this?
I think it's obvious where it needs the most help, and it's right outside of City Hall, and it looks as dangerous as it does now as it did 15 years ago.
Nithya doesn't want to help these people. She wants to keep the gravy train going. The bullet train may not be running in California, but the gravy train is. All aboard.